Hi everyone, good afternoon. Welcome back and welcome to our fourth session of Work in Progress. The world of work is changing, from the future of workspaces and ways of working, through to future jobs and talent planning, from commitments to diversity, inclusion and social purpose, through to meeting the hiring demands of the growing tech sector. And throughout this event, we've been focusing on the work issues that matter to people, workplaces and society. So in this session, we'll be discussing talent and skills and exploring if unlocking them can really impact social inequality and economic prosperity. A big shout out once again to Real Time Recruitment and Version 1, who have supported us with the vision for this event as major sponsors.
Yeah, of course, as well. Thanks very much to Matrix, who are the sponsors for this session. Before I go on from there, I should just say the audience in the room, you probably know the drill by now, but you've got a telephone number. It's to WhatsApp us with any questions. So we're trying to merge, obviously, what's happened over the last 18 months with Zoom and asking questions and chat, and then us being in a real room together again. So you can WhatsApp us questions. We've had some brilliant questions come in. Apologies if we've not been able to read them all out, because it literally is that I've got a WhatsApp full of questions. Matrix, it's the Northern Ireland Science Industry Panel. They're made up of business and academic leaders, and its role is to carry out research on emerging technology sectors in Northern Ireland. They also do an awful lot of work, obviously, examining the future skills that are needed in Northern Ireland's high-tech sector and looking at inclusion and diversity. Thank you to Matrix for sponsoring this session. Thank you to the amazing panel that we had and the speakers in the last session as well, focused on diversity and inclusion. Sorry we didn't have more time, and apologies that we're running about 8-9 minutes behind schedule. I don't like that, Fran, do I?
No, don't at all.
Oh my God, I'm going to get in trouble with myself later on. So I just wanted to obviously say thank you for all of you sticking around for the whole day that are in the room. Give us shout outs so the people at home can actually hear that you are here. Oh my God, we will sign autographs after, won't we, Fran?
We will, although I charge.
No, happy days. So who's up first?
So we have Diana Cano, who is a Senior Insight Manager at TechNation. She has several years of experience working in data-related roles across various sectors and is particularly interested in the evolution of tech and how this has played a role in employer demand for digital skills.
Excellent. Diana's going to join us now. She's been waiting patiently. I think obviously it's about 8-9 minutes behind. So Diana, thank you very much for joining us today. Hopefully you're on Zoom. Yes. Hello, Diana. How are you?
Hi, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, good. Awesome for you to join us today. Perhaps you could start by just telling us, before you go into your presentation, just a little bit about your role within TechNation.
Sure. So yeah, I'm Diana Cano. I'm Senior Insight Manager at TechNation. So I'll go into it a bit more later, but just to give like an overview of TechNation, we have several different arms. I sit on the insights, the research part. So we really look at promoting the UK tech ecosystem, through looking at capital flows, VC investment, but another part is also looking at the labour market. So understanding what role tech plays within the UK tech ecosystem.
Fantastic. Well, we will let you get on with your presentation, and I'm hoping audience in the room, WhatsApp us questions, and then we can ask Diana at the end as well. So Diana, I'll let you get on with your presentation, and thank you very much for joining us.
Sure, thank you. So yeah, just to reiterate again, so I'm from TechNation. For those of you who are not aware of TechNation or have not heard of us before, we're the growth platform for tech companies and leaders. And we really have, sorry, let me make this in present mode. Yeah, there we go, that's better. So we really have the vision to help UK founders and companies to really reach their full potential to be game-changing leaders. And we do this through a selection of different programs, which you can see here. So we have one that's started recently actually on Libra, and which is focused on supporting underrepresented founders. We also have our visa program, Advanced, which is really looking at skilling and scaling tech leaders. Digital Business Academy covers that as well. And then different sector programs such as fintech, cyber, and applied AI. So those founders that are within those particular sectors, they can apply for our program. We give them like the support that they need to really try and excel their company forward in the way that they want. So this is just a few, like several numbers as well, just to show the impact that we've had within the UK tech ecosystem. So this is some of the alumni that we've worked on that have been through our programs, so such as Darktrace, Monzo. We've had over, well, just under 4,000 visa applications processed. I'm sure by now that number would have risen. We supported over 29 unicorns actually since 2014, and to date over 75 reports published. So which brings me nicely into what I'm really going to be focusing on today, which is really looking at the UK tech ecosystem from a labour market point of view. So we launched our jobs and skills report a few months ago, and we've been looking at the digital tech sector for the past 3 years actually, and we explore the job ads in the UK. So we specifically use Adzuna job advertisement data, and they cover around 90% of UK job search engines, and we also use ONS data to complement our findings as well. So just to start off, we looked at the past 3 years. So from 2019 full year, 2020 under full year, and H1 of 2021. And we wanted to understand what impacts the pandemic has had on the growth of tech roles. So from Jan to June, we did a comparison from 2019 to 2021. And we see that from Jan to June in 2021, the number of job advertisements is 42% higher than pre-pandemic levels than 2019. As we'd expect in 2020, when we entered the pandemic, so we can see with the pink line, from March, the number of advertised roles started to drop. And the green line shows 2019, so that was pre-pandemic levels. But then we see in 2021 that this has even risen above 2019, which we assume it shows the need of the importance of tech roles within our society and our ecosystem. So not only did the number of advertised roles increase, we also seen that for the past 5 years, the average tech salary is 50% higher than the average salary for all vacancies. So why this is promising and shows that tech is very important and employers are demanding these particular skills for their businesses, we still need to make note and understand that it can be, we can assume that it's becoming quite polarized between tech and non-tech jobs, as we can see that this gap is widening, although tech is, of course, and digital skills is something that is really important. And as we've seen from the pandemic, it's something that employers have found it is something that they need to get a grasp on a lot quicker, but just to be aware of that polarization and still to make note that it is still important for other roles that are non-tech roles, how important it is for a business to thrive. So this table here just shows, so we did a deep dive really into UK cities. So within the report, I can share the link afterwards. We did look at a lot more cities comprehensively, but this just shows, just to give a flavor of some of the things that we looked at in more depth. So in this example, where we looked at the proportion of tech roles that were advertised across these UK cities, we see that Cardiff and Edinburgh advertised the most amount of tech jobs within the last year, which shows that, of course, there is a need for these tech roles and it's becoming ever more important. So we saw, for example, in Cardiff, there was 34% increase in the amount of tech roles, and in Edinburgh, this was 31%. So we see, for example, in Cambridge, there's not much change there at 1%. However, in 2020, it was 27%, so still quite high and much higher than London, for example. So we focused a lot on tech roles and thinking about the important role they play. However, we must not forget the non-tech occupations such as HR, legal and finance roles that are really pivotal to the success of any business, let alone tech businesses. So this is data from the ONS, and it shows that over 37% of jobs in the digital tech economy are in non-tech occupations. So this is well over a third, and it shows that as much as tech roles are important and we see a growing need for a software developer. So for example, why I mention a software developer is for the past 6 years that we've been tracking the data and the advertised tech roles, software developer is still the #1 sought after role by employers. So it's really an important skill for any type of business, not just tech business, but software developer roles, for example, that are in non-digital industries, such as like banks, for example, or retail. So when looking at salary specifically for some of the roles that we identified, we see that front-end developers and data scientists have seen the highest increase in salary over the past 3 years. So the front-end developer salary increase was by 34%, and with data scientists, that was 31%. So data scientist, of course, is like a hot role. It's still quite, it's still a role that people speak positively about, and it's very important because a lot of these tech roles that we come across or ones that we even interact with, whether that's social media or within fintech, there is obviously the technology that's really important and pivotal. However, the input and the foundation is the data. And without that, your output is really dependent on your input. So data scientist is not surprising. And moreover, we saw within the past 3 years that the employer demand for AI skills have increased by 110%. And cyber skills also increased by, the demand for cyber skills increased by 80%. So just showing the need for, and the importance of the different types of tech roles that are needed and what employers are demanding, but also the type of skills that are important for the success of businesses. So just to round up, so this is just to give an example of the type of skills we looked at in terms of taking the data scientist role that employers are advertising for, and then looking at all the skills that the employers are requesting. So obviously this would differ from the type of company that is advertising for a data scientist role. But we can see here that handling data, of course, as we would expect, is really important, as well as machine learning skills, Python, SQL, natural language processing. But I think it's important not to forget the softer side that is needed in these roles, such as communication and working with clients. Because more and more with these tech companies, what we're seeing is there's a demand for data scientists to be working more directly with clients, helping clients to solve their problems, and showing them really how data can be used to drive their business forward and provide the insights that are needed. So as well as the technical skills that are, of course, really important, the communication and the client side is also very complementary and important in the success of a data scientist, for example. So this just gives, so yeah, I've just given like a snapshot of some of the key findings from our report. If anyone on this call or live there wants any more information or deep dive into a particular UK city, we can, if you reach out, we can provide that information for you. So thank you for your time.
Great stuff. A round of applause. Thank you. Diana, one question. The question is, with all the need for tech jobs in the UK, how do we better connect that understanding with the school system that still seems to struggle with understanding about the jobs that we need people to do in the real world. So what is being done at that level, perhaps, to educate teachers and the education system on the jobs that we need filled?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I can speak from a role that I play and a role in terms of Women in Data, which is a non-profit organization. And part of that role is I've been into primary schools and secondary schools to speak to the teachers and the students about roles that they can do. And what, for example, with the role that I do, although my title is Senior Insight Manager, I do a lot of data science. My role involves a lot of data science skills. So I speak to them about what my role involves from a day-to-day basis, what that involves in terms of technical skills, and how it relates to them. So for example, when I speak to secondary school, I could use example of social media, but also just getting them to think about how they consume data on a day-to-day basis, and not to make it very abstract. And when you're speaking to children, especially if it's a very young age, for like example 5 or 6, and you want to, for example, bring like a clustering method to them. For example, you can bring in sweets, fruit, and just tell them to start grouping things that look similar. So then they start understand that concept without it making it so abstract. And I think that's one of the key points, is making it relatable to them and how it works and how it fits into the world that they live in now. And of course, we know that in the future, 5-10 years from now, there are going to be roles that we're not even aware of right now. But for them to get to understand the role tech and data is really playing into their day-to-day lives. So I think, yeah, it's really important to be reaching out to schools, especially from an early age as possible. So yeah, I'll definitely recommend either more mentors or organizations to be involved with that.
Perfect. I have a question before we jump on, because we do have to jump on in a second. It's more of a promotion, but I think we should give them the opportunity. So I'm going to just read it out. If anyone wants to get into schools and help inspire the next generation of tech stars, please get in touch with Bring It On program to become an ambassador. David Phelan at Belfast Met. Good promo. I love it. And obviously, I should say as well, we have Young Enterprise here in Northern Ireland, and they do a sterling job going into schools and doing that education piece. But somehow I still wonder whether the schools get it, if that makes sense. Like, do the teachers know? Because I know I go into schools and they still talk about lawyers, doctors, teachers. They don't know about these jobs. So it's kind of like we need to teach the teachers, not the kids.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, I understand from both points of view. It's the children, also it's home as well. Also what parents are encouraging, because something we saw with like Girls in Data that we did is, as you're saying, it's the traditional, like studying medicine or law, for example, at university. And if it's like, oh, okay, I want to do a tech job or I want to be an entrepreneur, it's like, okay, what's that, or where is that going to lead you? So I think it's also educating parents and allowing them to see the type of roles that do exist, and also how like entrepreneurship does promote and add value to the economy by providing jobs. So yeah, also giving them an understanding of how they interact with these things and just products and services they use, which they don't necessarily think about, because each business or anything that we're involved in, it started off with an idea, with a founder having the courage to do that, and we wouldn't have these products or services without that. So it's also thinking out of that mindset that we may have grown up with or surrounded ourselves with.
Absolutely awesome. Round of applause to Diana. Thank you ever so much. Stick with us if you can, Diana, as well. And it's lovely to have you with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're going to play a quick video. And then when we come back, the magic of TV, all our panelists will be sitting on this beautiful sofa and we'll be able to go onto the panel. So 1 minute from now, but with just a quick advert to fill that awkward gap. Welcome back. So we have joining with us on Zoom is Sophie, who is from Rollshare, and Patricia, who I believe is in the US at the moment as well. And we hopefully will have Sharon with us as well, who's joining us virtually. So it's quite a big panel, isn't it, Carol?
Certainly is.
It's like the whole world has come to
Because we all care about it.
here, and there's obviously who else is in the room, Fran? My mind has gone.
Goodness. So, yes, we have Sophie Smallwood, Lucy McKenna, Richard Kirk, Sharon Didrikson. We have Patricia O'Hagan, Carol Fitzsimmons. And yes, I flew through that because I wasn't sure who you had just mentioned.
No, happy
so
days.
Just ran through everyone.
We're listening now. Much more.
Sophie, it's awesome for you to join us over in London. Thank you ever so much. Okay, brilliant. There they are. Happy days. So Patricia, thank you. Virtual backdrop, love it. And Sharon, thank you ever so much for joining us in home near to where we are today, but you're still working virtually, I believe.
Yes, I am. Glad to join you.
Excellent. It does feel slightly awkward on this sofa. I've not been close to so many people for so long. So
Nobody else wanted to sit beside
no
you.
no one actually wanted to sit next to me, so that's fine. It's like a wedding all over again when I'm on my own. But Carol, let's start with yourself. Young enterprise. Talk to us about I don't know what this really means in reality, but talk to me about the 10 skills or 10 times skills report, program, policy. What does that mean to us in Northern Ireland?
What it should mean to us is that we have something to focus on. We have a shared vision that we all know what it is that we want to work towards. So be it the economy, be it education, we're all working towards the same objective, which I think is a really important thing for us to be able to align to. However, when you read it, the list, there's a lot of those industries, so there's quite a lot of breadth in there. But that actually also provides for a lot of opportunity for young people to focus on a range of careers. But I think what we need to be careful of is that one of our challenges is we already have that conveyor belt approach to education. You go through school, you probably do A levels, you probably are pushed towards university, if not FE, and I'm sure it's something you'll talk about a little bit later. So, it's how we actually start to challenge that. And I think what's important for me is whilst we can have 10X, we need to use it in a way to encourage people to understand there's a diversity of skill sets. It's about lifelong learning. It's about ongoing reskilling, upskilling, and transferable skills, rather than trying to use it as a single point for the future conveyor belt.
Totally. I was gonna kind of say on that as well. Like, obviously, how do we get people to go along with that process as well? I'm thinking like specifically in Northern Ireland. I know people from like lower social economic backgrounds. Why would they look at that strategy and think that's for them, or why should they look at that strategy and think that's for them?
Ultimately, it should be about the creation of opportunity, and we have a lot of those sectors have a range of different employment opportunities, and that's what we want to be able to have, that there are jobs for everyone. If somebody wants a job, they can get a job, or they can create their own job, but actually it doesn't matter what educational background they've come through. But I think what we need to move away from is that sense of, if you haven't done well by the time you've reached your GCSEs or your A levels, then it's over. That's only the start of the journey. So I think what we really need to do is to challenge that side of it, so that we don't expect schools to send young people out fully formed. The job I do is certainly not the job I trained for, years ago. We all develop our skills already in the workplace. So we need to challenge both employers and educators to be much more open to having young people be able to transfer their skills between different roles and keep learning and expect to keep learning.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, and you mentioned they're talking about different roles, and obviously that they aren't just aligned with the typical university pathway. For example, a lot of people will associate apprenticeships with traditional trades, the craft trade, construction, for example. Richard, do you have anything to add on that?
Yeah, well, I certainly agree, Fran, that you go out on the street and ask people what apprenticeships exist. They'll say plumbing, joinery, electrician, hair and beauty, motor vehicle. That's what I thought 5 years ago, but the reality is there are over 200 different pathways. And what the apprenticeship brings to it is that you get the best of both worlds, that you can, as an individual, you can continue to be educated, but you're getting real life experience, learning all those transversal and social skills that you can use right throughout your life that you need to develop. Companies that we're working with have really struggled with graduates, if we're being honest. They've had to spend a lot of their own money on retraining them to the people that they need them to be in the workplace. And then they tend to move on quite quickly after a couple of years, whereas apprentices, we're finding that 95% of them are staying on as full-time permanent members of staff afterwards. And it's proving to be a really attractive way for businesses to bring in new talent. And it's good for society as well, because we run the event each year called Meet the Parents. It's not as good as the movie, but it's what we try and do there is we get parents of apprentices on a panel and get them quizzed. And other parents sit in the audience and they listen to the stories of parents who thought, apprenticeship? Are you kidding me, for my son or daughter? No way. To be really open up and say why they chose it. And there was a lovely moment actually where one of the dads came out, and it plays back to your point about getting them into schools. But this is the reason why he's happy, is because he says, well, my son's earning 19,000 as a starting salary. He's now earning 27. He's just bought himself an RDA 3. He's 21 years old. He's got these career prospects, etc. But he's just so much more contented these days. And that's the moment where the room just goes, oh yeah, that's exactly what we want as parents. It doesn't really matter which pathway. But I think that the difficulty that we have in Northern Ireland, Carol alluded to it, around the 10x economy, is it's focusing more on those higher level skills jobs. Another announcement by Invest NI comes out next week. Are they coming here for the talent? Yes, they are. We're already talking to the universities. What message does that give to someone who's struggling in retail, hospitality, in a sector they don't enjoy, or a sector that's been hit by COVID? Well, you, with your rent payments, your family, your mortgage, you've got to step out of that job, go and get yourself a degree, and then we'll maybe consider you at this large company that's now coming in, which is going to be a good news story. The reality is that we need pathways which can bring people from a lower level. And the good news is, with apprenticeships, you can start an IT career at level 3. That doesn't mean a lot to people, but it means you can start it after GCSEs. So you're someone who's maybe 24, but you've only got GCSEs, you're on a career you like, you can join in the IT industry. But what we need are more employers to see that as a career channel, not just to look to the graduates, because unfortunately they're just not there.
I get quite excited when you're talking, because it's talking my language, but I'm thinking, like, I'm going, oh, are you doing something similar to what Metaverse is doing? Like, as in, like, with, you know, Union.
Does anyone know
no,
what
no,
Metaverse
sorry.
is doing?
No, I was going to say Metaverse, but
Multiverse.
you know, yeah. So
Yeah.
Union Blair and
Union Blair.
the work, is that similar to what you're doing, obviously, but a Northern Irish version, if that makes sense?
Can we just leave it there? Just
No,
that would be great.
Only because I'm just going in my head. I'm pretty sure they raised about like 100 million. So like, it's not like this isn't a pathway that was working elsewhere. Like, not getting them to go to university, getting them trained up into corporate business and employing them direct. Is that kind of where you're going with what you're doing?
Yeah, that's exactly what he's done. You know, he's a training provider for apprenticeships, so he does the off-the-job training 1 day a week. We're not that,
okay.
But we do a similar type of thing to Multiverse, where we're this apprentice marketplace, a place where businesses can come and have an easier way to find apprentices, and then the applicants can come. So it's like a UCAS CAO experience for them as applicants, but then for employers. Carol can maybe speak to this, you know, as one of our members, but, you know, it's like an Airbnb experience where you can filter by all the talent that comes through, and you can find the people that are really suited to your business. It's all anonymized at the early stages because we want to draw out the personality, abilities, and interests of all these candidates. We don't make them do aptitude tests, just to try and draw out all those skills that will actually be useful in the job, not just the fact that they've got a certificate on their wall saying they passed a GCSE or A level. 100%,
100%. I'm then going to go to the other side of the jobs market, which is possibly more the senior side. And Sophie, what you're doing with role share. And I just wanted to find out, obviously, a little bit about your story and why that should matter to people here in Northern Ireland, what you're doing as well with role share.
Hey, great to be here. And what we're doing matters on a global scale. So Northern Ireland, UK, US, you name it. So role share really is something that was born out of a need. When I needed it, it didn't exist. And I was working at Facebook at the time in a super interesting sort of strategic role, big clients, traveling a lot across Europe. And I entered a transition point in my life for the first time that made me question if I could keep going at that same speed. But love my job, really identify with my career persona. It's a big part of my self-confidence. And I became a parent. And at the same time, I wanted to also be an A player at home with my little one. You know, I made that choice to bring this little person in the world, and I wanted to rocket that role as well. And I looked at my options and I tried it out for a while, sort of this like juggle of everything. And I just kept failing at the parent thing. And I thought maybe part-time is an option. And to be frank, part-time was a dead-end solution for me in enterprise, competing against full-time counterparts who didn't have the same responsibilities that I had, or perhaps didn't have the same sort of desire for balance. And so this concept of sharing my job sort of came back to the forefront. I'd come across the concept previously. And I thought, well, surely, you know, if you could find your partner in love online, you've got to be able to find a job that's shareable online. Like you pretty much like sharing everything these days short of a toothbrush. And so I'm like, right, let's go see if I can find jobs that are shareable, and couldn't find anything. The concept wasn't foreign. Companies had done it before, but there just wasn't a solution, like a marketplace where I could go and like raise my hand and say, hey, I work at Facebook and I'm thinking about sharing my role. Would anybody want to maybe share my role with me as a starting point? And it wasn't there. So after some time, I decided to make the leap out into the entrepreneurial world with sort of like my experience on the business side at Facebook to build Role Share. And so that's what we did. We built Role Share. Now it exists. And ultimately what we're doing, very much mission led, and we're really driven by the mission to enable a diverse, sustainable, and equitable workforce. And yeah, we're available to anybody in Northern Ireland who'd like to join our platform.
What does that mean in reality? Say I could merge my CV with someone else on a part-time basis so that our talents and skills are combined when applying for a job, or does an employer need to know that they're applying through Role Share? How does that work in terms of the employer knowing that it's through Role Share?
So we're B2B to C talent marketplace. So in essence, we enable anyone out there who is a professional looking for an opportunity to work in a shared capacity to create a profile to join our platform. And then on the company side, companies can also join our platform to list roles that are shareable, both for their employees to retain them, but also for a way to attract a new class of talent who want to work this way.
Perfect. So like me and Carol, we could share a job, couldn't we, Carol?
I mean, you know, you got to have chemistry, right?
No, I'd be basically your PA or something, but like, obviously, yeah, no, totally. And obviously, I'm assuming then in terms of like inclusion, what it's doing is making people not feel like they have to drop down loads of levels of job to get back into the workplace. Is that something you're seeing the results from? Is that the metrics that are coming through from the work that you're doing?
Yeah, so when we initially started this, it was, we thought first use case, working parents, that was our story. And then the more and more we researched and did customer development, we dig into, you know, in essence, the commercial viability of this marketplace idea. We realized that there is literally like an insane amount of benefit to working this way, both for people who want to work this way, but for companies as well. So on the talent side, you're benefiting from flexibility, right? Without having to regress on your career trajectory and aspirations. And why people want to share really varies. It could be that they want to share because they have children. It could be that they're looking after aging parents. It could be that they are freelancers and they're tired of that life and they want that you know, that balance, but in it with a sense of belonging inside of a company and access the same benefits as full-time employees potentially. So there's many different use cases. On the company side, let's go back. Other benefits beyond flexibility. You've got the ability to learn from someone who has different skills than you. You are able to have almost like a built-in coach, somebody who's really in it with you, who is measured with you. And as part of that comes like greater focus on the days that you're working, right? Because you have a shortened work week, but you know that you're going to be handing it off to your partner. So it's like, you know, the Olympian in the relay, like running with the baton in their hand to pass it on to the teammate because together they want to win the Olympic medal. Ultimately, it's that same spirit of teamwork. And then on the company side, there's the retention piece, right? So employees who want to work this way, there's a reason why they want to work this way. So they could potentially be at risk of churning, burnout. We found actually that there's a 30% boost in productivity when people share jobs. There's also an 11% increase in well-being over any other way of working. And then you have continuity. One person's sick, you still have, part of the role going. If one person's away on holiday, you still have some coverage. If one person leaves, you still have some coverage until you can backfill the other half of the role. So in essence, it's insurance of skills. And those are just some of the benefits.
Yeah, so thank you for that, Sophie. And based on what you said, I mean, you talked a lot about change and the new way of being able to work. And on that, I'd like to actually jump to Lucy, who's the co-founder of Brave Lab, which is an organization that challenges and guides people and companies to be brave, to innovate, to learn, to journey through discomfort, and to actively participate in creating a thriving world. So I just want to, I suppose, connect those by you were saying about this change and how people work now. And I suppose what I want to ask you, Lucy, is that with the Brave Lab, you're helping to initiate further change, from helping organizations change how they do things and helping people reevaluate and make new career changes. So why do you feel it's important that businesses be brave in this new normal?
Well, so I suppose I'll cast your minds back to 2 years. This time 2 years ago, we were all sitting here and we had certain expectations of what our job was, what the boundaries were, what we had to go to the one place to do it. We generally had to do 40 hours a week. If you wanted to have anything beyond that, then it was, you probably had to fight to get it. It might have taken a bit of work to get it. And then the pandemic hit and completely threw that all up in the air. So the social contract has been rewritten in terms of how what we believe work actually is, right? So all those things that we were told we couldn't do, can't be flexible, can't work from home, all of a sudden we could, at least in the knowledge economy, we could do that, right? So employees are now looking and going, well, what else were we told that we couldn't do that we can actually do now? So this for me is why organizations need to be brave. They need to be looking at this and going, okay, we've been saying this is how it is, but it's not. So how can we completely rethink what we're doing? And I mean, the session before this was all on diversity, equity, inclusion, access, belonging, right? The next generation coming into the workforce are demanding that we are making changes to make sure that our organizations are somewhere that welcomes everyone. So this is a big shift that's been happening and continues to happen outside. In addition to that, a big part of what we're doing at the Brave Lab, it's not about just people thriving, it's about planet. And I mean, in Glasgow at the minute, COP26 is in its second week. There are major shifts coming down the road. Organizations are going to have to play a big role in how we are going to tackle the climate crisis. So for me, and I love what you were saying, Sophie, about that, as someone who used to work in Google, similar thing, tried to figure out how I could do it differently. Even in progressive organizations like that, it was challenging. And at the Brave Lab, what we're doing, and I think this has been mentioned in previous session, is we're taking a user-centered design approach to this, right? Look at the data. What is the research that's out there? Doing research within your own company, understanding what are the needs of the people who are working for you. And if possible, talking to the people who you actually potentially want to hire down the road. What are their needs? What do they want to do? And using that information, putting it in front of you. And it's scary to look at that sometimes, right? It doesn't always tell a nice story. But if you're going to be an organization that is at the forefront of the changes happening, you need to take a good look at it and go, okay, this is where we are right now. This is the status quo. What can we do? And I think that's where, there's so many organizations out there doing really cool stuff, like Sophie, like the apprenticeships, right? There's so many people already doing great things. It's connecting it with the employees and giving them the reason to actually go, or the employer, sorry, and giving them the reason to go, actually, do you know what, maybe we could try that out. And I think it was mentioned in the previous panel as well, each organization is different in how they're going to react to a particular problem. It depends who's sitting in the room with you. It depends who's leading the organization. So really taking that user-centered approach to designing something that's going to work for you to help you retain your current employees, but also attract people from different perspectives and different backgrounds that are going to ultimately make your company better at what they do, right? That's what those different perspectives bring is creativity and innovation. So yeah, I think, and I'm sure, Sophie, for you, the pandemic, I'm sure has had a positive impact in the company that you're running and what you're doing, because there's going to be a much more demand for this. Employees, you know, are leaving their jobs in, well, I'll not say in droves, but you know, there's the great resignation is a term that's happening at the minute. And I think there was McKinsey research come out about a month ago. But one of the pieces that I found was really interesting in that nearly 30% of people who'd left in the previous 3 months left with no job.
Yeah.
People are going, well, actually, what is work about? Is this what I want? And this is, the pandemic has really pressed that stop button. And I think organizations need to be brave to help really navigate this and make sure that they are going to be able to continue to run their companies and deliver for their clients at the end of the day.
It's a really interesting point. The kind of leaving your job without having another one to go to was always so frowned upon when I was like in my early career. And it stopped me actually from leaving a job I possibly wasn't happy in, because I just felt like I had to stay where I was. So it's a really interesting point that you make. And then I'm going to lead on to that and say, well, there are some people that don't really have any choice at all. And that might be because they are in a circumstance they don't want to be. And I want to kind of move on to Patricia and the work that you're doing with core systems. Just to kind of better understand, how are you trying to help offenders, obviously, to rehabilitate both in terms of digital skills and life skills? Because we sometimes forget, don't we? Like, there's lots of people in prison, and sometimes it's just circumstances. Like, it could be any one of us. So I just want to know what's happening, obviously, there, and what you're doing to try and help those people to kind of upskill.
Hi, Alistair. At Core Systems, what we do is provide a digital platform to prisoners to use while they're in prison. So what we want to do really is normalize their experience so that they acquire these digital skills while they're in custody. So our platform enables them to access information and services and communicate with people outside the prison in a secure way. It has to be, but also giving them a real life experience so that when they go outside, they know how to like shop online or manage their money in a way that we all do, but also given experiences of remote learning and how to use self-help materials. But if you think about how digital has just progressed so rapidly, it's so difficult for someone who's been taken out of society for even a short period of time to go back in, and everything has moved on and things are alien for them. So it's just simply giving people a real life experience while they're in prison and giving them the tools that we all have and value in our lives.
I think it's quite typical, isn't it? We just assume that people have those skills in the first place, but there is a vast amount of population, whether it be here in Northern Ireland or anywhere across the UK or Ireland, that they don't have those skills, and we just assume that they're there in the first place. Carol, we must get that in schools as well, don't they? With the stuff you do in schools, that we're still, well, maybe the kids are better than us. I don't know.
I think we tend to think of young people as a digital generation, but it's not in terms of everything that they do. They are certainly very digitally savvy in terms of what they do domestically, but that for most of them is not necessarily their experience in schools. They don't do a lot of the work digitally. And I think we saw that during the pandemic. We were able to, in-house in Young Enterprise, develop a learning management system, which again, I think goes to that point of, you know, as employers, we also need to constantly look at how do you transfer and upskill your own staff to maybe be more innovative, creative, brave, to do different things. Because I think constantly, the more you do that, the more that showcases to people that you're maybe open to them doing different things, learning different things. But our education system probably still hasn't got that level of digital that we might anticipate that they would have based on their home experience.
Yeah, totally. And before I pass you back to Fran, I'm just going to go back to Patricia and kind of in terms of obviously the kind of mainstream routes that exist in Northern Ireland, is there a divide perhaps that exists between the grammar schools, the universities, And then those that perhaps don't go through that system, what are we doing in Northern Ireland to change that so that people feel that they're included in that economy 10x, strategy in a sense, so it's for them as well?
Yes, well, if you consider the population that we serve in prison, like 50% of prisoners have dropped out of have been excluded from the mainstream education, so there are a lot of people who are excluded as such. I think things have changed positively in that I think we all recognize that now that we need to do something, and initiatives such as the apprenticeships, internships and alternative pathways are great to open up the opportunity to more people. We've also seen initiatives like the academies, which select people through aptitude rather than qualifications, and then give them an opportunity to learn new skills to fast track into a different role, like in the tech sector, but a specific role where we need people in particular job roles. But it's based on aptitude selection rather than qualifications.
Yeah, it would actually be good to get maybe Lucy and Richard's opinion on this as well. You talked briefly there about recruitment, Patricia. I'd love to hear any advice you both may have on maybe changing up traditional recruitment processes and how companies might change those to get, better or more variation of talent or new talent into their workplaces.
Yeah, from our perspective, the companies we're working with are keen to know the whole person, and they're not just interested in particularly the qualifications, although some qualifications apprenticeships will need a certain minimum entry point, but they're looking well beyond the certificate itself. I think the challenge though comes, and Patricia made the point there about academies, and they've been used really well, but the problem that we have with academies is that we're medicating something down the line because we're sick. And the problem is that folks are going off encouraged to do certain degrees that don't have jobs at the end of them. And then we need to put them through academies to move them into careers where there are actually jobs, because they didn't maybe make the direct decision to go on to that career pathway the first time. And government has helped fund that university course, and then it had to fund the assured skills to get that person into the right job. And Patricia and colleagues in the tech sector have done a great work recently engaging with schools. Later this month, I'm speaking at the Grammar School Principals Conference. That's something which we go to each year and do a keynote at to try and nudge the culture. But the difficulty is that we're putting a lot of young people at school through digital user qualifications, which is like how to use Excel, Word, but it's not digital creator qualifications. And that's where we need people to be going through. So it is a whole system approach, and that's not easily solved, as Carol has alluded to. But certainly by hitting the principles of those schools and helping them to understand, they can start to enact some change within their school system, which can help get more digital creator courses being taken, which means then the government doesn't have to spend money retraining people who've taken a qualification which isn't actually economically relevant. And I'm married to a humanities graduate, so I love literature. So I'm not trying to say that everyone needs to go down the STEM route, but we certainly need to do better at making those career prospects open. And Patricia and others in the tech sector are doing a lot more in schools, which is great to see. And the likes of work with Dave is doing with Bring It On. That's really important to help the schools see that there are careers here, and an apprenticeship is the best way to bridge between school and the economy, because you don't have to go to school, university, and pick up the debt along the process.
Yeah, totally. And I feel like that kind of skills gap is ever more relevant now with marketing graduates coming out of university, because then they're hoping to go into marketing agencies, specifically now digital marketing, but they actually haven't learned those skills in university. Yeah. In university, when you do your marketing modules, it's very much sort of theory. And then you come out with this marketing degree and you don't know how to run a Facebook ad. And it's like, oh no. So, marketing companies are now saying, oh, I want to hire an English literature graduate because they can write and they can write copy and they can write ads. So it's, I suppose, a very relevant example of that skills gap of the university graduates. Does anyone else have any thoughts on that in terms of recruitment processes and how they could be altered?
No, I just think it's, as employers, we also need to look at how we recruit, what we ask for. you know, parents want the best for their young people ultimately, as long as the first thing that appears on a job description is a degree at 2-1 or above, that will seem the safe bet. So we need to stop necessarily asking for the institution that they studied in and start talking about levels of education, because it doesn't actually matter where they did their qualification, as long as they're working to a specific level. So I think looking at that and looking at I mean, that's a lovely example, the likes of English literature in marketing, because copy is a strong skill. So I think reflecting on what are the actual skills that you need, not necessarily the qualifications, and where would those aptitudes come from. And particularly in the world of digital, because actually there's not necessarily a lot of those qualifications ready to go. So when you're looking for somebody in social media, actually a demonstration of show me your portfolio is going to be much more relevant to you.
Totally.
100%. So I'm just going to give a shout out to Sharon, who is not with us. I think she's dropped off. She doesn't. Hello, Sharon.
I'm here. Yes.
I'm so sorry. It might be that you turned your camera off and we couldn't see you, but basically I wanted, before we go, because we have to run in 1 second, and I'm so sorry that we don't have much time to talk to you. But I want you to specifically talk to us about why you do what you do, working and developing the talents of autistic people and the organization you work for, because I just feel like this is, again, such an untapped market, both for the people that are autistic, but also employers in Northern Ireland. So please tell me about that.
Yeah, okay, so in a few minutes, Alistair, is that right? To summarize it?
Sorry.
Yeah, no, I can do that really easily. So I'm part of a team of 10 at Specialist Stern, and we work to support autistic and neurodivergent people to get into work, and we help employers get ready to welcome and identify the talents. And some of the things you asked me to consider for today was, did I think employers were aware of the talents of autistic people? And I think that largely most autistic people working in Northern Ireland, but well, many of them will not disclose because you don't feel terribly safe to do so. And autistic people have recently from Specialist Stern met up with some government leads in the UK and said, you know, where your glass ceiling is going to be put in your career. You don't know what the interviewer thinks of autism. You don't want to waste your time in an interview talking about being autistic. People start to shift uncomfortably when they do. But I think there is some awareness coming about. Our chair is David Crozier of Queen's University of Belfast CSIT, and he co-authored a report this year, Cybersecurity Skills in the UK Labour Market. And we were really pleased to see that employers across the UK in the cybersecurity field thought 10% of their employees were autistic, neurodivergent actually, which is more broad as ADHD, dyslexia, OCD, Tourette's, as well as autism. 2% of leaders, but we know a lot of very senior leaders in Northern Ireland who tell us they're autistic or neurodivergent, but may not have told anyone else. And so it's a bit of a cultural shift. And why we do what we do, well, we have a lot of neurodivergent mentors who tell us they can do things like in their first year of work, they know 6 coding languages, they work in analysis, they love solving problems, can sit for 5 to 6 hours straight and not realize it, and the most knowledgeable person in their area. They don't assume what people think, and whereas other people might do. And I just have a real analytical brain often, and some people have none of those skills but have other skills. And so it's really about helping companies recognize talents. The way we do that is we work with a company, and so it's about looking at processes that may not have been written with neurodivergent patterns of thought in mind. So it's a bit like shopping in a shop which doesn't do your clothes size, not going to fit. And so if you have neurodivergent people in your management team, well, that's a good starting point. But if you don't, you may need to get like a neurodivergent commentary on those processes. That's what we do. It's really cost effective, and gosh, it really changes a lot of things. And we just finished training a company today who are a way to put their heads together and think, gosh, we're going to have to redesign everything. But you don't actually. You just need to have a neurodivergent expression for what you measure already. I need to adapt your pathway in areas which would feel like pressure points for autistic and neurodivergent people. So what we do, it makes a change really quickly, and it you know, very quickly it ramps up the people knowingly coming through the door who can be openly autistic, and then knocks on the people in the company can say actually that they are autistic or thinking of a diagnosis, and all of a sudden you have a neurodivergent community in your company. which has again another ripple effect across other areas of difference, such as mental health. So we love what we do.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously, the takeaway I'm taking from that is, well, if 1 in 10, then there's quite a few of us in the room, and if there's quite a few of us in the room, and we're not representing those people, then we haven't got an inclusive workforce. But we're missing out on talent. Is that fair as well?
Well, yeah. So we have some people. We're thinking of one person in particular. He's a PhD. He's been unemployed for a year. In an interview, he'll turn to the side and adopt like a thinking pose. He's a great person and very knowledgeable and super fast thinker. He hasn't got a job, and it kind of draws attention to, well, what other talent are we missing as well? So it's part of a bigger picture. But what I would say is start small. Often when we start getting involved, it's just like saying autistic people or neurodivergent people are welcome, and we can show you the evidence of that, because many neurodivergent people want to see the proof of that. They'll not trust a message alone, because it could be that you're doing that because you actually hadn't been very good at working with neurodivergent people. So once you've got a wee bit of proof behind it, and we'd be happy to engage with you, then that tends to grow, and people feel more confident to recruit people with more obvious differences, and that, you know, over a period of 2 years, that usually leads to a much better ability to identify talent.
Perfect. I'm going to have to leave it there. I want to thank Sharon for waiting all that time to speak as well.
No problem at all. It's interesting.
No, thank you. And Patricia, I could talk all day about the work that you do. Sophie, role share is amazing, and it's brilliant to have that outside perspective, talking about something that's happening elsewhere. Gives us a bit of inspiration about some of the tech platforms that are here as well that can kind of help with the career pathway. Richard, for all you're doing, it's brilliant. Thank you very much. Carol, of course, you're my buddy. But Young Enterprise is awesome. And Lucy, I want to be more brave. So I think that's a good starting point for all of us to think about, obviously, the process as well. We've got 2 more startups pitching. But first of all, let's give a round of applause to all the panelists from this session. Thank you.
So yes, about the startup competition, for those of you who have just joined us in the last hour or so, Work in Progress features our startup pitch competition. It's powered by sponsors Clockwise Belfast and Raise Ventures. 8 early stage tech startups from the island of Ireland will pitch with relevance to future work, workspace solutions, and they are competing for a cash prize of £1,500.
Not 1.5 million, 15, yeah. 1,500.
Yeah, 1,500. So last but not least, we have our 2 final pitches, introducing RegTech and Scanmatic.
After this, we'll be straight back and we'll be announcing the winner. So stick with us. We're about 10 minutes behind schedule. Scanmatic, RegTech, good luck.
Right, well, good evening. My name is Gary Lyons, CEO of RegTech, and together with my co-founder and CTO, Jerry Murta, we're very excited to talk to you today about our RegTech platform and how it can help companies maintain high levels of corporate compliance whilst embracing the impact of increased remote working. Our platform structures and simplifies the management of regulatory and compliance requirements, helping institutions to reduce their costs, improve control and collaboration, and to evidence their compliance with ever-increasing regulations. Our platform creates a new, wider compliance ecosystem, bridging seamless but secure collaboration across existing and emerging compliance infrastructure, connecting remote teams and facilitating real-time access to workflows. So no matter what sector you are in, RegTech takes the complexity out of compliance. The global fintech market is expected to reach 324 billion by 2026. During this 3-minute presentation, the sector will have been fined some $15,000, a staggering $5,000 per minute for regulatory and compliance breaches. Our SaaS platform sits on RESTful APIs, not requiring any upheaval to existing IT infrastructure. The RegTech platform comes with a library of out-of-the-box workflows for key regulations, ensuring that tasks are completed in the right sequence and to consistent standards. We have a highly experienced team with a proven track record of delivery. I have a law degree and I'm a retired Scotland Yard fraud squad detective. Jerry has been a go-to person for fixing large-scale IT infrastructure problems within the City of London for the last 20 years. Patricia is an experienced marketing professional, and Dr. Michelle is an expert in transformational change. So how do you bring distributed teams of teams, clients, consultants, legal counsel, internal staff across multiple offices, countries, and time zones together in a transparent, sequenced, and auditable way to work in harmony on solving a complex set of tasks? Well, that's where RegTech comes in. We've developed a collaborative and open technology to enable rapid scaling of a fintech ecosystem from any location for any task. Our platform is fully developed. We have won a Gold Award for Innovation from the Department of Trade and Industry, and we've also won the UK heat of the Abu Dhabi Global Markets FinTech 100 competition. We are currently preparing a seed investment round. We've secured a number of proof of value schemes for our platform. We effectively connect remote teams and facilitate transparent, effective compliance, providing a single point of truth across their ecosystem. We're passionate about removing the complexity out of compliance. We are currently creating incredible momentum. We've identified and validated a clear product market fit, and we are now ready to scale. We are RegTech. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Gary.
No problem.
Just a quick question from me. So you're trading, yep.
Yes, we're pre-trading at the minute. We've got a couple of pilots underway, but we're pre-trading.
Okay. And how much seed investment are you looking for, and what do you plan
£1
to do with it?
£1 million for 20%, and we had 2 offers.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
What other competitors would you see in this space, Gary?
Sorry, I didn't hear
What
that.
other competitors would you see in this space?
Jerry, do you want to pick
I'll take that one.
Yeah.
So we see that our product's quite unique, again, from experience. There are products like Microsoft Project, which are very generic, and there are other products which are very configurable. We see ours as being a Goldilocks, almost like a USP, because we take the workflows and embed them into our platform. So we feel we've got quite a unique product there.
Guys, slightly different question. What do you see as your biggest weakness here?
The biggest weakness is we've very deliberately chosen to be very specific about our product market fit. Generic platforms aren't going to cut it in the compliance and the regulatory sector. So the biggest issue for us would be preferred suppliers lists, getting in onto those lists with the institutions. And that's why we've developed a twofold marketing model, one where we will sell direct to the institutions, but also one where we'll partner with people that have existing relationships and are on the preferred suppliers list. So for instance, some of the big consultancy firms that we've been talking to that already have those relationships, we will just become their product of use within the institution.
Maybe I'll just ask another question.
Yeah,
sounds like a difficult challenge ahead. Big problem equals big opportunity, but why are you guys doing this?
A couple of reasons. I'll split that into 2 answers. We've been hugely excited by the reaction we've had. I was in Dubai 2 weeks ago. We took 3 proof of concept there from some big leading law firms, a regulator, and a bank. The reaction to the product has been absolutely fantastic. Why are we doing it? Because we know the space. As I said, I've got a law degree. I was a detective from the fraud squad for 20 years. I know compliance and regulation, and there isn't many institutions in London where Jerry hasn't been in to fix some of their IT at some stage. So we really know the space, and it's that experience that we've had over the last cumulatively sort of 40 years where we know where the holes are, and this product plugs those gaps.
Yeah, and I'll just add from my side, why am I doing it? Again, 20 years of working with senior professionals, seeing that they're under this pressure to evidence compliance, and in a future world of collaborative working, bringing those people together, giving them the tools that they need to be able to evidence compliance for which they're personally responsible for. It's a people thing as well as a product thing for us.
The COVID pandemic and Brexit have seen unprecedented changes in retail and manufacturing. Many high street names have disappeared, along with the well-documented supply chain issues that currently are in existence. These changes in manufacturers' just-in-time processes have led them to having an increased stock holding. Also, a recent study into, a European-wide academic study into retail concluded that truing up of stock can increase turnover by 4 to 8%, and increased margin between 5 and 7. I'm George Armstrong, CEO and co-founder at Scanmatics, and we help businesses commercialize their data and improve their bottom line by putting stock control at their fingertips. Our mission is to become the leading name for stock taking and inventory management in the UK and Ireland in the short term, with global aspirations in the future. Scanmatics is a 360-degree complementary solution for all stock movements within retail, wholesale, and manufacturing. We are faster and more efficient than our competitors, and our solution as a service provides the end user with both software and hardware to increase efficiencies and provide a competitive edge with business intelligence to their operations. There are 3 strands to our platform. We have our web app, currently with selected customers, our desktop app, and our Android scanning app. We also have 3 strands to the service that we can offer. While our competitors only focus on one, our customers can move up and down the scale depending on their needs, and this flexibility is allowing us to create a simple onboarding process towards our solution as a service across all our target verticals, be they retail, be they warehousing, or manufacturing. And this helps empower those businesses with the knowledge to see their data differently. Scanmatics are the only company in Ireland offering a range of services. Our competitors only have 1 strand. We can accept product data from any source or any format. We can integrate with ERP and EPOS systems and already have worked with SAP and Shopify. We are quicker than our competitors, and a recent pilot showed us to be 6 times quicker for the same process compared to the existing transfer solution in operation. And Scanmatics is also a multi-use platform, allowing our speed benefits to be applied across stock takes, transfers, deliveries, and returns. In regards to the team, myself and panelists bring over 50 years experience in stock management systems for retail. Alex and Gary head up our team of stock takers in Ireland and bring over 25 years experience in their roles as professional stock takers. And Gordon and Reyes bring a wealth of experience and guidance from different sectors. In regards to our financials, we have projected our sales in blue with costs in orange, and we're currently on target for these figures despite the retail lockdowns in 2021. Our current usage and target levels are shown also. And we currently have £135,000 invoiced or booked for 2021. This has been done during the lockdown of non-essential retail, and you can see there are some of the traction to date, including the pilots we have with the Hardware Association of Ireland and Manufacturing NI. Some of the other customers that we've worked with in their first year are also listed. So thank you very much for your time. I'm George at Scanmatics, and with Scanmatics, we're more than just a stock take.
Thanks, George. If I can ask the first question,
Yes.
As you mentioned at the beginning, see, COVID has had a profound effect on retail and manufacturing industry, but how would you say COVID has changed, or would you say it has changed your short-term and long-term strategy? And if so, how?
Well, in the short term, our separate strands, initially we were going to be a self-scan platform. Mm-hmm. And when COVID struck and non-essential retail was forced to close, we had to realize there was another way of doing it. And essential retail, such as the electric companies and the convenience stores that were still allowed to open, they require people to come in and do their stock takes. And we found that by getting a team on the ground, being able to go and do that, it has allowed us not only to develop our software and tune it up greatly over that year, but we've also now created a separate business, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of Scanmatics. And that has allowed us to create two strands and give something different that nobody else can.
Sorry, George, can you elaborate on the subsidiary business?
Okay, so the subsidiary is the guys on the ground, as we call it. So it's the people who are physically stock taking. It's not necessarily the way in which we can scale the software, but they are allowing us to basically show our product to the end user. We've already had 2 customers who have converted from outsourcing their stock takes, seeing our software in action, and then asking the question, can we do that? Because we've always told them it was a self-scan solution. So we've converted 2 customers from outsourcing their stock takes to bringing it in-house, and that continual truing up of stock that they're then able to do is giving them better intelligence, not only to make decisions within the business, whether it be buying or merchandising or whatever, but they can actually sort of make better sales and ultimately happier customers because they can always fulfill the orders that they're getting either online or in store.
I think you said in terms of your competition that it's because you're faster and more competitively priced. What if the tech from your competitors got faster and better priced? Okay,
we're basing that on what we know at the moment. The example that I gave, it was a pilot for a large national retailer in the sportswear industry. And they have a process where they have to transfer all the stock from their stores to the warehouse to sell online. They do that once a month. And say we were 6 times quicker than their existing solution. Their solution was an SAP-based solution. And what was taking them 20 hours, we got down to just over 3.5. When they scaled that and did the simple numbers through their business, across their 50 branches, it equated to just under 9,000 man hours saved. Because there's sort of, that was lost hours, they were sunk hours in regards to staff. So they're able then to take those 9,000 hours, turn them, say, maybe into the sales time. So they were able to increase their sales. During our stock counts with them, we identified 12% of stock that wasn't actually on the shop floor able to be sold. It was just like a hidden warehouse in their storerooms. So they were able to find that. That has changed the layout of their stores. The managers now know where the stock is. So they've increased sales, they've improved their productivity. And ultimately, we believe that when we scale this right out, we could add somewhere in the region of €500,000 to their bottom line.
So it was a better solution than they were currently doing. But from the competitor landscape, can you talk to us about that in terms of your advantages? Or
yes. So from our side of things, because we can offer the self-scan, the managed scan, and the service scan, all our competitors are either service scan or a self-scan. So by being able to sort of hit them with all 3, depending on their needs at the time, they can do the self-scan and true up their stock on cycle counting throughout the year, but their accountants may still need an external auditor to come in and count their stock for them. And because we provide them with the one platform, the reports they get are consistent throughout the year. The data intelligence they get is consistent throughout the year, whereas our competitors will come in, do a job, and go, and they're done.
So there's nobody else in the market doing this? Not
what we're doing, no. Seems strange, but it's true.
So what would be the barrier to entry then?
In what way? Barrier friendly in what way?
So if you guys are the first ones to do it and it creates such efficiencies, I'm assuming other people will then follow you. So what would be the kind of barrier for them to come in and do what you do?
For those that are doing the stock taking, our competitors who actually come in and physically stock take for them, they have created software that is internal software for them to use. They're not trying, it was never designed to be used by the end user. So it becomes very technical. They need to set up their own local area networks with laptops and equipment when they get on site. Our devices run offline. So we store the database on the device and only need to connect when we're sending data back and forward to the cloud servers. Our other competitors, they're working on local, they create a local network when they're doing a job. So the economies of scale that they can provide, they need a supervisor with technical knowledge in every site. We can have that technical supervisor offsite monitoring 10 jobs. So we become more efficient than our competitors. So they would have to redesign their business model to be where we are. And those that do the self-scan side of things, they don't have, they've nobody on the ground who can actually do that. So they don't have the knowledge and way to enter that. They could bring people on board, but whether they want to get into the resource heavy guys on the ground is maybe a different thing.